Today we're going to be doing an RCSB breakdown to learn how to do the voice of Patrick Star. So, hold on, stick around, and join us at the party! Welcome back to Character Voice Building with me, Nando Garza, and I am here to help you build and develop better character voices. It has been a while, and a lot has changed since then. First of all, you may have noticed that I now go by Nando Garza. Fernando Macias Jimenez is my legal name, but I decided to change it just because it was almost impossible for somebody to pronounce it correctly all the way through or remember it. So Nando Garza, it's a little better. And also, I joined SAG-AFTRA maybe about a year ago, so I decided that was probably the best way to go forward with that. So, we're going to go back to doing RCSB breakdowns. This time we're doing Patrick Star. And just as a reminder, our RCSB stands for Rounded Character Speech Blueprint, and it is a framework that I came up with to have all the different elements of a voice that you can tweak to create your own character or to imitate a different character. And if you want to get a refresher of what that is, click on the reminder thing. I don't know which side, one of those, and that will get you through the whole thing. There is an entire playlist of every single element, and that's what we'll do. So without further ado, we're going to start doing the breakdown. So first we'll start with the feel category. And with that, we'll start with the aesthetic element. The aesthetic element I have, which is the general sound of the character, is low, open, and explosive at times. Then we have the demeanor, which is the general kind of person that the character wants to appear to be, and maybe at odds with the aesthetic or the way the character is if he's not trying to pretend anything. So the demeanor is really dumb, naive, oafish, and just childish in general, which that's the general vibe of Patrick Star. Then we have the instrumentalization category. The instrumentalization category begins with mechanics. This is probably going to be one of the most important elements for this voice. And the mechanics is basically the physiological technique you use to produce the desired sound. You could really do a Patrick Star voice without actually saying anything or doing it in a sentence, just by the sound of it, just by, oh yeah, that kind of thing. And the way you achieve this is basically the most important part is going to be your larynx, okay? So what you want to do is lower it almost as much as you possibly can and try to speak that way. So a good exercise to do something like this is to basically yawn or pretend to yawn. That's it. That's it, SpongeBob. So when you yawn, you automatically go down with your larynx. So it's like this, and then see, and move from here to here. So that's the basis where you want to be. And the other thing with that is basically in your mouth cavity. It's kind of like doing it like this in a way. And you're trying to have that kind of resonance kind of right down the middle of your mouth in the back a little bit. So it's kind of like that. And then you combine it with a low larynx, and it goes like this. Hey, SpongeBob. Kind of thing. Okay? So yeah, those are really the two main elements for this. Now we'll go on to the next the next element in the instrumentalization category, and that is tonality, the bass, pitch, or range. He basically works on a lower register and most of the time, the vast majority of the time. Even at its highest pitch, it will probably still be within the range of a bass singer, a bass range. There might be exceptions to this, but it generally is pretty low. So what I would say is do the yawning and then do as low as you can before actually, just making air go through and no actual sound. So like, that's probably where he lives, and that's where he usually talks. Then we have musicality, which is the variance in pitch and rhythm. It's pretty monotone most of the time with occasional strokes of pitch variation. So it almost always ends up being in this kind of a... So it doesn't vary a lot. It's that general range. It might be a small restricted range, with the exception on when he just goes wild and is like, ah! Then okay, that is a little bit more intense. But that's the general musicality of it. And the rhythm also, that's the pitch. The rhythm ends up being pretty consistent to this, that kind of thing. Then we have the resonance, which is how full or thin the voice sounds. This is tied to the mechanics of it, which is basically very full. From having that low larynx in that resonant space here, it becomes a very full resonant voice. Lastly, in the instrumentalization category, we have dynamics. Now, the dynamics is the range between the lowest and highest points of loudness or emotion. So it is very dynamic, especially with the reactivity, which is another element we'll go down the line. So it can go from just kind of like, SpongeBob, what are we doing? To just like super explosive and like, ah! That kind of thing. So it can be very dynamic. Now, to the texture category, we'll start with grit, which is the amount of lower vocal distortion, basically vocal fry. There is none, really. And there is basically an unsupported voice, which doesn't really allow for grit. It's difficult to get grit when you're fully open like that. It's kind of impossible, really. So no grit. Then we move on to distortion, which is the amount of upper vocal distortion, and there's many techniques for this, and distortion is present and it is common on the more intense reactions. So something that helps in this realm is when you're trying to do this kind of distortion is basically to kind of yodel in a way and then find that crack and stick to that crack. So to give you an example, see? That's where it is. That's the kind of distortion you want to go after with Patrick. So again, it's just kind of like going up and down, up and down, up and down until you hear that crack and you stay within that range. Yeah! Yeah! Oh my God! That kind of thing. Then to the last element of the texture category, which is air, which is how much audible airflow is present in the voice. This one is only really a small amount of air. There is air there, but it's not a lot. And with a low larynx position, it is very easy to try and go into breathy. So it's important to resist that and to keep that tone, the actual note in there. So when you're going like this, it's very easy to fall into this kind of thing, and it doesn't really work. You have to actually keep the tone of the voice to get that Patrick. Now onto the momentum category. We'll start with speed. Speed is basically how fast the character talks in general. And it is relatively slow, basically medium with a sluggish feel in general. And that's basically to give that kind of oafishness to the character. So we'll just go straight into flow. Flow is how interrupted a sentence or thought is, and it's very flowy. There's not a lot of interruption within a single sentence. Patrick wouldn't just go something like, "Oh, we should go to the house." That doesn't quite work like him. It would be much more just like a fluid motion from the beginning to the end of the sentence. "Oh, I think we should go to that house." Next is localization. We're going to go pretty fast over this one, just because it's pretty standard. So we have the accent first, the first element, which is regional pronunciation of the language spoken. There's socioeconomic reasons for accents, but that doesn't matter. It's just a general American, I guess. Enunciation, how clear or muddled the speech is. It's a little muddled, but not enough to be a problem so that you can't understand him. It's meant to be that kind of slow thing, but you can still understand it. And last, you have inflections, which is the modulation of intonation or pitch throughout a sentence, which is characteristic to a particular character. And there is none really. It's basically just the regular musicality of it. So on to the very last category, which is dimensionality. And again, this probably won't have as much. Patrick doesn't have a lot of that. It is a very dimensional character, of course, but it doesn't have these elements. So the elements are reactivity, quirks, and tics. Reactivity, how a character reacts when startled, amused, scared, etc. So this one, of course, it does have a good amount of characteristics in there. So it's very screamy when he gets scared or finds something exciting or something very funny. Distortion is very common here. So that reactivity is a pretty essential part of Patrick's star. He doesn't just stay like this. He's like, and he just gets very excited and very emotional and reacts a lot. So that's part of it. And also it goes with the visuals. And they try to do very really stretch his mouth. When he does that, he even spits out and his eyes bulge. So that's important to get that reactivity in the voice as well. The last two, there's really nothing there. Quirks, which is the pronunciation of certain phonemes, such as a lisp or a trill. There's nothing in there, really. And last is tics, non-language sounds, which, it could be or that kind of thing. And there's just really nothing in there. He might do something occasionally, but it's not really a part of his voice. So, yeah. So there we go. We have the RCSB breakdown of Patrick Star, and I really hope this helps. If you want to imitate his voice, then that'd be great. This is a great way to follow that and to maybe work on some things that don't quite work for that voice. It can help you identify what exactly that is, and you can work on that. I hope you can also use it to study how a voice is built so you can build your own characters later on. Take elements of this and maybe incorporate into your own characters, or just to break down something and understand it, how you can manipulate each of the elements. Thank you for being here with me. It was a pleasure to have you. If you like this, please like and subscribe. It would really, really help the channel. Or share it with anybody who you think this would be helpful. If you have a group of other voice actors that, are looking to do this kind of thing, share it. It would really, really help the channel. So thank you very much. I will try to do this a little bit more consistently. There will be more RCSB breakdowns. There will also be other general tips for voice acting and voiceover. So yes, stick around and we'll see you next time. See you later.